So I cracked my window open in here, and I'm anticipating my neighbors deciding to mow their lawn at any second.
You can't tell. You just can't tell. It's a Saturday, and it's in London at least. It was quite a gorgeous Saturday. It's 8 p.m. now, so it's only a mediocre Saturday.
Yeah, it's pretty nice here too.
Right, so unfortunately, that's going to be a bit of cutting for. Um, right. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Critscast, the Team Fortress 2 thing. My name is Aggro, and I'm joined today by a human being who excels in one quantity, and that, I'm sure you will all agree with me today, is in the quantity of hair and its general spikiness. Welcome
Hell
to the
yeah.
show, UEAK Crash.
Hey, Agro, what's up?
I'm doing quite well. Are you surviving?
Yes, I am an essential, awesome worker, and I'm very valid and loved. And oh God, I've worked so much in the past 2 months.
I had no idea you were an essential worker, and I must admit, when I first heard that, I thought you said you were essential, like as in you're a massage therapist or something. And
No.
I've got to admit, massage therapy would be something that I would classify as being an essential and a essential worker right now. What is it that you do in your day job that classifies you as an essential worker?
I actually work at a grocery store. I'm the manager of a produce department. It's not a real big chain or anything like that. We a handful of store chain, and I manage the produce department of one of those stores.
I've got a funny feeling because we've, in full disclosure terms, we've had you on the show a number of times for a variety of topics,
Yeah.
and I distinctly remember the last time you came in, you said that you were either worked in a produce store or managed a produce store. Have you sort of worked your way up the produce store corporate ladder over the last few years?
I think I've been manager. I think going on 4 years now. But I've worked in the grocery industry since I was like 15 years old, and I'm 33 now. So it's been a couple years in my life.
Couple of
I
years.
started, the usual kind of working your way up, small scale bagging groceries kind of thing, up to cashier, and eventually switch stores, and I'm where I'm at now.
It is one of the weird things that now that a whole decade and then some change has passed since I first started playing TF2, and in doing this kind of like reaching into the great undergrowth of heroes gone by and asking them what they've been up to, I'm realizing that actually my life hasn't changed sufficiently
Well,
up
shit.
up against all the other amazing people that I've had on the show so far.
Well, get
So
on that, Negro. What the hell? Come
I
on.
know, right? Something big is going to have to me to make me want to do more than I'm currently capable of doing, and I think it's actually technically already happened. So eventually, watch this space. Something awesome will happen here eventually,
Hell yeah, you
sometime.
got this.
I've got this. Thank you very much. I need a little bit of like support, external
Yeah,
support.
man.
Someone, yeah, I appreciate absolutely. Right, we're going to be playing some games in a couple of minutes. We're going to jump over onto the creators.tf server. Pick a not particularly random server, but neither one that has been specifically allocated to us. Somewhere that's going to be halfway between you and halfway between me. Probably halfway between the both of us, not halfway between you and halfway between me. Like that would be a foot or something, or an ankle. Right. Let's see. Where are you based? You're based over in North America, I assume.
Yeah, I'm in Michigan, kind of East Coast-ish.
East Coast, west, east. Okay, so we are looking east United States. Well, Virginia. Welcome, Virginia. You're all welcome to Virginia up here. Let me do a quick refresh on this page. Try and find a server that has a couple of people in, but not so many. And so we can put a post out onto our Steam group and fill it up for them. There's one here playing Sujin. That is 205. So if you want to join on that,
Okie dokie, I'm joining.
for reference, if anybody is watching this sometime in the future, um, uh, creators.tf is essentially my go-to place for playing TF2 right now. It is so easy to get good games there, which is frustrating because I would love for the default location for me to be just Valve servers, and it has been for a number of years. But for the time being, creators are doing some awesome stuff, so I'm pleased to be a part of that. And in fact, we've had a little discussion with them and decided to put their logo up on our stream as well because we think they're doing such a cool thing. I realise now my volume is way too high, so apologies. Bear with me a moment, caller.
Yeah, I realized that too when I joined the game. I was like, ouch!
Whoa! Fall.
Mission ends in 10
Set to
seconds.
0.07, so
5,
maybe I turn that to 4. Still pretty loud. I'm going to turn it down to really quiet. Now it means that if anyone plays Spy, they can backstab me really easily, or at least
Okay,
they can
so
try.
go on the opposite team and play Spy.
Yeah,
what I heard.
that's the cunning plan. I've doomed myself to stream sniping now. But what can you do? Having had this, insert the IP address into our Steam group. See if we can.
I'm gonna beat you with my Saxy. How about that?
I mean, there are definitely worse ways to go. The address is that secret right? With the event. Let's see if we can't fill the server. People of the audience, if you'd like to join us, the link to join us is actually listed in our Steam group. It is the only place we feature these
Got
links.
my ass kicked already. So I'm gonna be rusty. I tried to do a warm-up match. I did decent, but today is the first time I played TF2 in probably close to 6 months. I think it was around the Halloween stuff when I was crunching on the map then, and then I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Control point is being contested.
I assume then that you're done from, and I think this goes on to the crux of what we really want to be talking about today, which is Bog Wizard. But I assume that you are done gaming for the most part.
And not necessarily. I've been actually still doing some VR stuff. I have been playing Half-Life Alyx, which is amazing.
I should have known.
But I have been taking a step back from gaming for sure.
Well, because you certainly kind of started to pull away from mapping as being the thing that you wanted to be famous for. I feel like there's a million questions in here that I probably should be phrasing better. But if my recollection is correct, you started pulling away from mapping and started pushing towards being a YouTuber or a streamer and doing sort of VR sessions.
Yeah, it's more I'm not. All this stuff that I've been doing hasn't been intentional trying to accomplish much other than my own fun. So it's when I was focusing on mapping, it's because I was just really excited about making maps and doing stuff like that. And then I was like, well, while I'm doing it, I might as well, start doing some videos on it and start streaming it and start, what can I get out of this in addition to what I was doing? Because I tend to multitask anything I do. So after I started getting out of mapping more, I was just kind of, I don't know, aimless a bit creatively, and I ended up going over to music, and that's where I've been pretty heavily since. I was working on music the whole time I was doing mapping too, but it wasn't as serious as it had.
Yeah, I mean, I got the impression at least that music was an important part of your life, if not necessarily the most important part of your life for a while, and so transitioning to making it much more of a full-time thing for you is got to be fairly natural.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just a weekend hobby, like everything else that I've done. I don't like to sleep, and
in general, at all ever.
It's dumb. I think it's a scam, and I don't like it. So instead, I just make stuff, and instead of maps right now, it's been music.
The control point is being captured.
Does that mean that your whole focus is being productive?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I always have to have some kind of side project. I can't stagnate. I want to make. I want to create. I like to do. So I tend to put a lot of time and energy into that.
The whole not sleeping thing. I mean, I know that's a joke, but realistically, you've got a family, so you need to be a responsible human being, and being part of responsible means that you have to get your sleep where you can.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a pretty minimal sleeper. Like when I was doing my mapping stuff, I was still working 7 a.m. or so most days. Come here. I go, God damn it! I wanted to sex you.
Sorry, somebody else killed me. It's far too soon.
I was still working usually 6, 7 a.m., but I would be staying up till 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, mapping, playing games. Because, I don't know, sleep is dumb. I hate it.
Are you...
There you are. There you
How
are.
are you still alive? Wait, no, don't... Oh, this is... Oh! Cheated and killing my medic first.
But yeah, no, I survived, like, the first 3 years I was manager, I was doing 2 to 4 hours a night of sleep. It's not healthy, but I was doing it. And then I tended to just, like, go on streaks of that, and then just crash for 12 hours every, like, week and a half, and then wake up and be like, oh yeah, okay, it's time. Time to get that done. Get caught up on my sleep.
I'm being murdered here. It's very hard to concentrate while I'm being murdered. I wanted to find a quiet corner of the map and just hide for a little while while I think of things to ask you. So, I mean, the two things that are most fundamental in terms of the transitioning your career away from, well, at the time I'd say away from mapping and now away from everything else is Small Child and music.
Yeah, my daughter's just turned 3 last March. She's got a sandwich we got from our Saxy trip, like the plastic sandwich toy. That's like one of her favorite things. She runs around, and I taught her to nom nom. So the TF2 influence is still there. It doesn't go away. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of a priority thing, and I will admit, like, a little bit of the reason I got out of mapping was that it became a job. It became I have to work really hard on this for a chance to get it in the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, money got involved. And when money gets involved, it ends up kind of sucking the fun out of it a little bit, unfortunately.
And that's a really telling way of phrasing it, in as much as I feel that the whole item production thing or the map production thing for game only really makes sense if you're not being paid for it, if you're not dependent on it.
Yeah, like if you look at like the modding scenes, there's games that are just ancient that are still getting tons and tons of work put into it, and there's no money involved at all. It's passion projects, and that's all it is. It's just these people who are really excited about the game, these people who really want to make something for this thing that they're excited about. And unfortunately, when you start introducing money into it, you start getting the people who are making it a career. And honestly, it started feeling kind of like spec work a little bit. Like I was...
Sorry, what's spec work?
Spec work's like speculative work. It's like a company says, make us a poster, and if your poster's good enough, we'll buy it from you. Like, that's generally considered pretty shady. You get a ton of work.
I've literally had the same conversation with like a bunch of people recently. So, So
if I'm putting all this work in and I'm not expecting much out of it, it was getting harder and harder to justify the time that I was putting into it, which was many, many hours.
Did it ever sort of pay off? I know it's probably improper to ask a question like whether or not it's like a worthwhile investment in your time, because I don't know that you're allowed to share how much, or would want to share how much money you made from the map making when you were doing it. But did it ever feel like it was a worthwhile sacrifice?
Yeah, there was definitely times. 2015 was my big year. It's also coincidentally the last time I got anything in that was solely mine. Like I've worked on a couple other projects that have had, you know, I've had a small part in. Like I worked on Bagel Event. I did the Underworld on there. I did Jesus Christ, there's a bunch of stuff. I've done so much that I tend to forget everything I worked on. The Freya's map, Jesus Christ. It was part of the jungle update. I did a bunch of clipping work. I did some back-end stuff. The 2CP map. I really wish I could remember the name of it. But anyway, I helped out with that. We kind of traded because I was working on Overgrown at the time, and she was working on a 2CP map. So we were like, let's trade a little bit of work. So she like made a poster for me on my map. And hey, Edgar.
Hey, oh, you're trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do to you. Damn it. That would have been epic. We could have blasted each other off the edge.
Right. but we kind of traded work because we generally assumed there was only going to be one map.
No, no, wait for me. Oh god, this is gonna be a bad idea. Yes. Sorry.
But yeah. So we traded a little bit of work. So we were like, it was kind of a pact. If one person gets a map in, then the other still gets involved somehow. Gets their name on it. So a little tiny cut. I forget how I tangented onto this topic. Oh, so 2015 I got in Moonshine Event, which was a big project I helped on. It wasn't solely my map, but then we also got in Probed, and that was almost entirely my map.
Oh.
There were some assets that I used from the invasion stuff, but that was one of the only maps that I've done to completion that was almost entirely all my work.
I'm trying to remember. Was Probed the no?
UFO one, it comes down the middle.
Okay. The one where you're collecting beer and stuff.
No, that's Watergate.
Oh, yeah, okay, you're right. Oof. Christ. Remember
Probed, the farm map, the big UFO that comes down the middle of the point, sucks you up. King of the Hill. Come on, aggro.
Come on!
I should know this interview.
You'd assume I would have, but I kind of relied on instinct. So
it doesn't get played much anymore because it's considered a miscellaneous style map. Unfortunately, because it's got some gimmicks. So that's a playlist nobody plays on casual.
I'm guessing that, as with all things, someone just fell off the edge there. Perfect. I'm guessing unless it's on the Steam rotation, the Valve rotation, it just doesn't get played. No, get away from me! Damn you!
Yeah, and I talked to Jill at one point, and I was like, "Hey, what's a guy got to do to get his map actually played?" And Jill did tell me if I fix some things up, like there's a couple little bugs, like there's a big error on it right now because a model changed over time. I had an Easter egg hat on top of one of the aliens that spawns into the map.
Right.
And that file name changed. Now it's this giant red error sign on the map at certain points.
Nice.
It's cool. But Jill did say, like, if you do those and contact Eric, I'm sure he wouldn't be that opposed to, putting it in proper rotation. I just haven't done it. There's a bunch of little things, like I'm a couple hours worth of work. I'd have like 3 maps updated, and like they'd be big major things.
So you're still in contact with the Valve team then?
Not as much recently. Every now and then I'll shoot him an email or something like that, but it's pretty casual. I mean, there's no direct line really.
That's a shame. I mean, I know that you spoke the last time you talked on your YouTube channel about the visit that you did to Valve and the fact that was some time ago, and but you had lots of sort of sit-down conversations.
Yeah, I actually got to pick Dave Riller's brain for like 45 minutes straight over lunch, and one of the most mind-blowing experiences of my life, honestly, because it's like I've played a bunch of his stuff for a really long time because I'm like old school Valve, like Day of Defeat and like early Counter-Strike 1.6 era. I was involved in all that, and that's like he was doing maps in those games, so I've been playing his stuff for a long time. So it's like this person I looked up to, I got to just sort of sit down and chat with. And the crazy part was that he was like, "So what's Crash working on these days? I know you got something up your sleeve all the time, right?" I was like, "No, dude, no, you're not doing this to me right now. Like, blow my fucking mind." So he seemed as much of I don't want to say fan, but he was as interested in my stuff as I was in his, which was cool.
I just got to kill these noobs. Right back.
Gotta do.
Yeah. Right.
So what are you drinking, Aggro? You said you're having a beer. I'm curious.
Well, I've got a couple of beers. 2 of them are relatively light. They are a couple of little creatures pale ale. Which I mean, it's probably, as pale ale goes, it's pretty luxurious. But I enjoy it mostly because it reminds me of when I went to the brewery itself in Fremantle next to Perth.
Nice.
And my sister was living in the area at the time, and it was actually a really cool pub stroke. I want to say pub stroke bar, but it's actually more like a pub stroke dock. In the it was built on the dock itself, and if you leant too far outside the window of the bar, you fell into the estuary.
Oh yeah, don't drink too much.
Yeah, it's that's like a Darwin award in reality. So there's that.
We're getting our asses kicked in this game.
Are you? Are we? I don't know if we're on different teams. There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot going on in the game. It's really hard to think and play and be effective at either one of them. The other beer that I've got that I'm looking forward to later on this evening is called Pharaoh Fatalist, which is a slightly darker beer, and it has artwork that I'm sure you would approve of.
Nice.
So, give you some idea. What are you currently drinking there?
Are you by chance an Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan, or have you watched some of it?
I'm aware of its existence, but I've never watched any of it.
Okay, so there's this brewery in Michigan, my state, called Oddside Ales, and they really, really like to reference Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I'm currently drinking a Fight Milk Stout, Imperial Milk Stout. It's 4 bodyguards by bodyguards. It's a delicious dark beverage. I really like the dark beers. I like my beer like my metal, just dark and brutal.
Nice.
Oh, hey, I'm on blue team now.
Oh, that's
important.
That's a shame. I don't get a chance to kill you anymore. Maybe I should change. Oof, so much devastation caused by one WM1 pyro.
I changed back.
I want to talk to you about your maps, but I don't, because that's not what you do anymore. And
that's I understand my place in the TF2 hierarchy. When I step back from mapping, all the people who gave a shit just vanished, and it was hilarious. Honestly, I understand. I get where they're coming from. I do not I do not fault them at all.
It's nice that you recognize it. That you're not trying to fight against it.
I know what I'm here for. People want mapping stuff.
Yeah. But at the same time, I just saw a pyro up there, and I thought it was you, but then we're on the same team, so it can't be.
Nope, I switched teams.
That happens.
Yes, no. So I mean, if you have a mapping related question, I definitely don't mind. That's what I'm here for.
Well, I mean, we could perhaps talk about Overgrown a little bit, because it was one of your more recent projects. I've got a funny feeling we're going to be repeating questions and topics that I know we have talked about at some stage, which is to say, oh, I am so dead. I am dead. Oh, when you're on the other team. Yep. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
It was you. It was you.
Yeah, I've told you a couple times now.
Yeah, but every time you tell me, I don't realize you're switching each time. You're just reminding me I'm being stupid. Right. So Overgrown was playtested by Uncle Dane, famously, and it seemed like every time he placed a sentry gun somewhere, you would go around behind him and mark that as like an area that you can't place a sentry gun. How much of the mapping? How many of the classes did you have in mind when you mapped or playtested?
Oh god, you have to 100% think of every single one. You can't get away with that. I will admit that I have a bias against engineers a little bit, because that's like my least played class, and I'm not a fan of the concept of a sentry gun. Like I get the role, I'm fine with it, but they end up getting spammed too much. Like it slows the game down. I like every aspect of the game except sentry guns. So I do have a bad habit of being a little biased against engineers, and I feel bad for it. And poor Uncle Dane has given me feedback, and then I just murder his like good spots.
Yeah.
And that's actually Probed. He put a bunch of work into giving me feedback for Probed, and he showed me all these tricks, and then I was just like, okay, those are all gone now, just so you're aware for the next update. Those no longer exist. Thank you for your service, engineer. Get in your place.
Did you have difficulty after that getting people to playtest?
Maybe him. I think that was one of the last times he helped me come think of it. I didn't really think about it that way. I don't know. really, engineer is the only one I've ever been sort of biased against. It's like a running joke at this point in my maps. Like Wub Wub Wub, I famously just sort of put an entire no build over the entire middle area, so you can only build it in like your spawns. And then same like two fort. Yeah, I made 2 fort by the way. No, same with train saw laser. I put like a no build in the middle area because I just like didn't really feel like properly balancing it for like just a stupid goofy map, and I just felt like it ruined the fun. So I was just like, okay, just none over here. And then every once in a while, I'd see an engineer running around with their toolbox out, like, what? Why can't I? What? And I'm just like, delicious, honestly.
It's such a weird opportunity to have vengeance, though. Like,
yeah.
There aren't that many people in the world that have that ability to destroy other people's gameplay so utterly and completely. Do you think that they're same? Like, do you think that maybe Valve, like individuals within Valve, have made the same move to just screw with player classes?
I don't know about classes. I can definitely tell you like cosmetics. It's pretty known that Jill is a fan of the really cutesy, goofy cosmetics, like the cat ears and stuff like that. So I have heard people just being like, "Yep, this item's Jill bait," like for sure.
Well, it's going in just so that it can persuade Jill to put it in the map.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see that being true. Jill bait. That can't be a good saying.
That's a horrible. Yeah, I've never said it out loud before, and
yeah. now
I regretted it immediately. Yeah. There's gonna be an edit. Someone later is gonna be like, "Oh, look at Crash talking about fucking." Yeah,
no, please don't. Please don't make that.
Anyone. I almost said it worse because I would just decide to throw a curse in there. Can I swear, by the way? That kind of happens.
Yeah.
Keep tone it back. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you, Aggro. You don't have to say it. I get it.
It's cool.
I'm there.
The occasional F-bomb is not going to end the world, but yeah, that's. I think I've ticked the box on YouTube that says, "No, this is not created for children." So
that's good.
We've got that box covered at least. Or that,
hey, I beat you by a point. Suck it, Aggro.
You bastard.
I may have lost almost the entire time, but I still won.
I was playing the objective. I'm so sorry about that. Either playing the objective or searching you out. Either way, lots of times were wasted. Right, we are changing map style. I wonder whether this server actually filled up. I'm very much aware of the fact that I haven't got much of your time today. So with that in mind, I think we should probably take a moment to acknowledge your new baby, by which I mean Bog Wizard.
Yes, the important baby.
Yeah, oh, wow! No. Wow, no! It's too late. Things that were said today with beer consumed, definitely regrettable. So, I'm hoping your child never gets a chance to hear this.
Don't worry, Aggro, no one listens to Chris Cass.
Oh, burn! That's it, we're ending the stream now. Where's the replacement? We got someone here who actually does maps now. So you've given up the dream and you've decided on a new dream.
Yeah, I've been I would say over the past 11 years I've been really casually playing drums. Hell, probably like 12, 13 years now that I'm thinking about it. And I had a buddy of mine. We both picked up our instruments at the same time, and he played a little bass at the time, and I was interested in playing guitar, and then he ended up switching to guitar, and I ended up switching to drums, and he's just kind of always been around, and we've always hung out, and he ends up coming over the weekend, so we just casually jammed every weekend, and then all of a sudden we were like, hey, we actually might not suck. I feel like we're doing something that doesn't sound terrible, finally.
I gotta say, how exactly do you casually play drums? Because that in itself is pretty impressive.
Just on the weekends, once a week, I would just go and hit circles with sticks really hard and have no idea what I was doing. And then eventually I was like, oh, hey, I kind of know what I'm doing. I feel like there's something happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you just casually do something for a decade, you tend to start absorbing some of it. Oh God, who crits me? I'm terrible. No! No, I'm panicking! I got somebody!
You did. Finally. I saw a lot of crit rockets just disappear into the sky. Was that you?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes, that was me. I had no idea what I was doing. I panicked, 100%.
Awesome. We've got this. We're definitely going to hold you back.
Oh, I don't play soldier. What the hell?
I wonder if people don't enjoy the stream because I only play Pyro. Maybe I should start playing other classes that are more conducive towards watching.
So,
let's face it, Pyros never get kills.
In true leaving TF2 fashion, I got rid of a ton of my my backpack. I sold it off.
No.
So I'm like looking through my items, like, oh god, I don't have like half of what I wanted to use here. Like I have one of each item, but like they're not stranges anymore, and like I had a bunch of Australiums, and those are gone. And yeah, it's sad, but hey, I got like $500, so I'm gonna swim my bitch.
I mean, was that like a?
I can throw that number out.
Yeah, it is. Well done. Weird flex and everything, but like, was that a conceited effort towards literally leaving the game, as in, I'm done with this game and I'm gonna come back, or was that just I want to raise $500?
A little from column A, a little from column B. It was like I'm like I haven't played the game in like 5-6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I have this backpack that's just sitting, stagnating. That nothing's gonna happen with unless I do something with it. And I also am trying to fund an album, which turns out is really expensive.
I would have thought that. I mean, I've seen like the studio that you're working in right now, and that's it. To be honest, it seems like it's somebody's basement.
That is my basement, yes.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say there is no way that is an expensive studio.
It's more like the cost. Like, it adds up really fast.
Yep.
Putting in like stuff for merch. Like if I want to have T-shirts. Like for example, we had this design done up by Square, who's a very well-known TF2 concept artist. He's done a lot of stuff that's in game. He was on the Saxy team that I worked on with Agent Gun Vulcanite, and I commissioned him for some artwork. And then I sent it to this T-shirt guy, and he's like, "Okay, this is a really complex design. We gotta break out all the stops and get it properly screen printed." And it's like $15 a shirt, minimum of 50 shirts. And that's like upfront cost, and it's like, oh, I hope I can sell those. That would be great if I could get the money back. So it's a lot of like dumping money into a hole, and then you're probably not going to get much back.
And that's
music is not a cheap thing to do. Like for example, just before we did our one of the last shows we did. Last year, before we hunkered down and started recording, I broke a cymbal. Now that cymbal cost roughly $300 on its own, and that's just one piece of my drum kit. And
Would
then
you say that was a symbol of your defeat?
Yeah, I guess so. If you want to be lame and have that kind of joke in there, I guess.
Oh boy, I'm getting destroyed here. Yeah, go on.
You forget how much I just rip on you during these interviews.
It's true. I totally forgot that.
It's a tradition.
Oh, excellent.
So it was like, okay, I need to go buy a hole, otherwise this is going to sound like absolute garbage during the show tonight. So I ran to the music shop, and I dropped $100 on it, and then I drove. It was like an hour and a half drive. We had to spend a ton of work loading our equipment, unloading it, hanging out at the show for probably a good 4 hours between setup and watching everybody, doing our show, waiting for the rest of them to finish, tearing back down, loading back up, driving back home for another, hour and a half drive. And in the end, it was like, we got a couple free beers and like $50 each. And that's really not worth the time in the grand scheme of it.
It's really not. I mean, that goes beyond a labor of love into a labor of like torture.
Music is dumb. I don't recommend it, but it's really fun.
I mean, sort of as a reflection of the things that you have been like, or at least achieved a certain amount of success in the past. And again, I feel that from my poor knowledge of you, I can only really say for certain that is map making. Did you ever feel the same way about map making? That it was dumb, but it was a good distraction. And it was
I mean that was the pretty early onset when I was doing my joke maps like Train Saw Laser and blah blah blah. It was like, okay, I just spent a week straight of just not sleeping and making a map that is dubstep boiled down into a TF2 experience. Wow, that was probably not worth my time, but there it is. It's a map now. Everybody has it. And that was when it was more like the passion of it. And then it was like, once the money started coming in, it was a little harder to be like, do I really want to justify spending the next 300 hours of my mapping time towards making a joke? Or do I want to put it towards something that could potentially earn something and be more financially worth it for me and make it a lot easier to justify the time, the hours, the literal thousands of hours I've spent mapping.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to start, or when you start looking at your time as being time as money.
Yeah,
Then
and it also it played into, you know, my professional, my, you know, outside of video game life started, you know, becoming more legit. I wasn't just a early 20-something punk. I was a late 20-something punk, and I had to decide. And it's you got to make those kind of decisions. And I ended up realizing that I was putting a lot of time into TF2, and I probably shouldn't, because I was like something like 4,500 hours into playing the game. Most of that was map testing, and then additional, probably around the same as like 4,500 hours into mapping, which is a significant chunk of my life.
yeah, absolutely.
And it was fun, though. I don't regret it or anything like that. Like,
I'm just surprised that you never decided, or at least you never gave yourself. I'm just making massive assumptions here. Did you ever try to transition it into a career?
I dabbled a little bit. Like, I ended up getting a freelance gig at one point, doing level design. I don't know if you know Joe Wintergreen. There's a few people that work with him that are kind of related to the TF2 scene. And he was working on a game. It was kind of a Thief-esque sort of game, and he ended up hiring me on, and I was doing like hourly work, and it honestly was just fucking miserable. Oh, I swear again, it was just miserable. I couldn't. It was really hard for me to be like, okay, I'm not excited about this.
Yeah.
It's interesting, it's cool, but it's not. It was outside of my like wheelhouse a bit, because it was like a single player game versus a multiplayer game, and I'm really forcing myself to do it, and it was cool, and I really appreciated the experience, and it was actually really cool that he brought me on to do that. I actually, no joke, sent him. He was asking for shit, it's you. Like applications, whatever the hell the term is, I'm drawing a blank. Resumes and such like that. Examples of the work you've done and all that. And I'm sure people were sending proper resumes. I sent him an email, and like half the emails were like, "Here's Train Saw Laser. It was fun. People liked it. I know how to make fun." And I really didn't take it seriously. And then he was like, "Hey, you want to work for me?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess. Like, sure, let's do this."
Did you sit in an office? Did you share
no, it was
stories with
he
your
lives in Australia, and
Right.
I in the United States. That was very much not happening. So I was working just hourly, freelance from home.
Right.
He paid good. I would definitely give him that. The boy appreciates his help. But I know funding got tight on it, and he ended up making it a scaled down project, and it's still being worked on as far as I know. So
I was going to say, did anything ever happen from it? If a thing is released, would you get royalties? That's probably not the word. You're essentially working per hour, so you probably won't.
Probably not, because I believe all the work that I ended up doing was like kind of just laying down bases of things, and then as far as I know, none of it got used because of the way it worked out. Like I really, it was only like a few weeks of work, essentially. So it wasn't anything like major contributing to the game at all, and I doubt any of it is going to be in the final product.
Really long run and then got dominated by a heavy. Not a great feeling. I think I'm still just beating you on points though, so. And as we all know, that's the most important thing.
Okay, I'm going to have to take it seriously now.
I assumed you already were.
Oh, I walked out of spawn and got crit immediately.
Oh,
Time to get serious crit. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I forgot.
Oh, yeah, everybody's getting serious. I mean, the great thing about playing on these servers is that everybody's serious all the time, except when they're not, which is fine. Ouch. Any points that man?
But yeah, kind of looping it back around. I ended up kind of leaving leaving TF2 and deciding to.
Go there, mate.
Oh, whoops! I forgot I have to hold down the push to talk button.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I
You
was
don't have to,
talking.
but
But yeah, like
I mean, ironically, you were saying that I ended up leaving and then you left the voice comms. So
yeah, when I ended up leaving TF2, it was sort of in search of another passion project. It was kind of getting back to the I'm doing something for fun, not something that is potentially, financially rewarding. Because that looming pressure just changes it so much. So music is my new. Let's dump a lot of time and energy and money and effort and lack of sleep and all that. And it's been fun. I really enjoy it. It's been working out really good. And we're actually here's the plug part.
go for it.
My band is releasing an album July 3rd called From the Mire. The band is called Bog Wizard. We do like a lot of doom metal, sludge, a little bit of stoner rock kind of mixed in. One thing you'll learn about metalheads is we have like 1,000 different subgenres, and they're all very specific. And so we're kind of a blend of those three. Just really, really heavy, brutal music, basically.
I was listening to some of it earlier, and I can't say that I'm a particularly huge fan of metal. But the little bit that I do like, and I don't hate this.
Good. So the new stuff we're working on, like the EP that we put out, so that was a two-person project. We put that out like 2 or 3 years ago now, and that was me and that guitarist that I mentioned that we started learning our instruments together.
Yep.
And it was just him and I working and learning, and eventually we're like, hey, I think we got the makings of a couple songs here. We could add a cover and a few others, and we'll have like a little 4-song EP that we can put out. So let's crank down and record it. And I had a buddy of mine who was into recording and working with sound, and he wanted to learn more. So it was like his opportunity to kind of sit down and learn it. So we built this studio in my basement and had multiple layers of fabric to divide off the jam space from the main area of the basement. Like what you saw in the video there, that was our setup for streaming. When we were recording, we try to soundproof it a lot better. A lot more mics and a lot better mics at the same time. But yeah, we put together that EP, and I feel like since then we started taking it more seriously, and we improved enough that we were able to attract a bass player. So now we're a 3-piece band.
Oh.
And we sat down and just cranked out a full-length album. So we have an hour and 6 minutes worth of music coming out July 3rd. We redid the songs from the EP and then wrote a bunch of new ones. And I'm really, really proud of it. I think it turned out so great.
The bass, you spoke about a video that I saw, and that is something that was on your Facebook page. I noticed in that the bass player was wearing a kilt. Is that part of your MO now? Or
that's actually my guitarist.
Oh, okay.
That's my buddy that I've been working with for a long time, Ben. Yeah, he just likes kilts. Honestly, that's his thing. It's not really a chosen aesthetic for the band. It's just when the weather gets nice, he busts out his kilt. It's what he's comfy in.
Having worn one for a short period of time, and by a short period of time I mean a day, for a mate's wedding. Yeah, short-lived wedding. I can say it is comfortable. It is both comfortable and airy, and it's the sort of thing that once you've worn one, you think, why does anyone wear anything other than a kilt? So yeah, I can totally agree with him. A little bit unusual to see, but it's a choice.
He gets a lot of do you play bagpipes when walking around in places? And he's just like, no, I just like kilts. They're comfy.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone.
Not the question I was expecting to have this evening, but yeah.
But yeah, so we went back to the studio though, and a similar setup, but with a lot more knowledge in my basement. The soundproofing is way better than in the EP, and we are much better musicians than when we recorded that
too. Does it make a difference to like the quality of the sound you produce, the sound producing, or is that purely from I won't even say from an aesthetic point of view. Is it just there to help improve the lives of the people in your neighborhood?
Oh, the soundproofing
Yeah.
stuff. It's very important to the sound actually, because like when we recorded the EP, we recorded it live. We're actually the full length album we recorded live too, which means all three of us were playing at the same time. With the EP was the two of us playing at the same time in the same room.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
a lot of times bands when they record, they do each part separate. We've never really liked playing like that. It doesn't feel like part of our style is relying on the natural kind of flow of the song. Our tempos change. We don't hold down a consistent BPM, beats per minute, that a lot of other bands would just be like locked in. Like, this is a 120 beats per minute song. The entire song is at this rate. No, like I almost kind of play it at like a like I don't want to say like classical music. That's a little pretentious, but like playing piano, how you kind of have a flow to it, and it picks up and it speeds up, and that's sort of my role as the drummer in the band. That I change the tempo, and that's part of our thing, and it doesn't really work well trying to record all the parts separate. So we still had to do it live, but the problem with recording live like that is each part is going to bleed into the other.
Yeah.
So when you're recording and you're trying to mix the snare drum, you've got guitar blasting in your snare drum as well. So it makes it really difficult to get this nice clean sound in the snare, and that's one of the issues with the EP. Is it's just this kind of big mess of sound because it's all together. Now our bass player came in, and he actually used to own a recording studio like a long time ago, I guess. So he taught us some things, and we actually ended up isolating the guitar cabinet into like a separate area of the basement, away from the drum kit. Sorry, this is like the geeking out. This is like
fine. I love this kind of stuff.
This is like when I was excited about mapping, and I was like, okay, so there's like this entity, and you do this like really specific thing, and like, yeah, this is where I'm at right now. Like, all the passion that I had in mapping is towards music right now, so I can't not stop geeking out about it. So with this LP, we had this really nice, isolated, clean sound. So every aspect of it is just sounding beautiful, in my opinion, and it's very exciting. I was trying to saxy somebody. And plus the knowledge of our new bass player that joined us, having worked, having his own sound studio. He's got to put that effort in. I've learned a lot from mixing. I'm mixing and mastering the whole album myself, instead of sending it off to anybody. It's much cheaper, and I know enough. And I've learned a lot on this one too. So yeah, I'm long story short, I'm very excited about it. And the thing that kind of brings it back into relating to TF2.
Go on, I dare you. I dare you to bring this back to relating to TF2 somehow.
When I was in TF2, one of the things I really liked to do was gather a whole bunch of really talented people up, and make just a ridiculous project. So Shore Leave is an example of that one. That was the map for Frontline. I was working with the Frontline team to make this asset pack that was going to be the best asset pack that we could, and Shore Leave was going to be the showcase of that asset pack. So we gathered up all these people to make this project, and it was basically making it the best we could. I've had other projects like Overgrown. I worked on that with Pear. He's like a very, very talented modeler, very, very visually talented guy. He's got a good eye for aesthetics and style, whereas I'm more gameplay oriented. So like we teamed up, and it was like the thing I was lacking in was that part of it, the detailing. So I took that kind of, I don't want to say like necessarily leadership role, but this desire to gather up people who can do things I can't do, and combine what I can do and try to make something really cool. I've been doing that with music now. So like the stream we did, I've got a buddy who does lighting. He dabbles in sound. So I had him, he was on production behind the scenes. He set up all this crazy lighting. I've got my bass player. I've got, all these people kind of coming together to do this cool event. I gotta kill these bastards. So in the same way that I was not only geeking out, super excited about what I was doing, but also gathering up a plethora of nerds to create a project. That's what I'm doing with music right now. So that's how it relates to TF2. Looped it back, nailed it.
It's very well done. That was exceptional. I'm beside myself with appreciation for how well you nailed that.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad. I was actually going to say that sounds very similar to something that you've mentioned previously. So, yeah, you actually did nail it. And I guess that really sort of like answers the question: did you learn anything from your time doing TF2?
Absolutely, it was definitely like working on team projects and taking on kind of a leadership role of, okay, you and you come here, we're doing this, and they're like, wait, what are we doing? Just shut up and make your thing. Like this is your role. Like obviously I'm not rude about it, but it's like people who necessarily wouldn't do things on their own. This sounds insulting to those people, but I really don't mean it that way. It's like people who have talents, who are very, very talented people who wouldn't have the same kind of connections and push to connect with other people who have other skills to make some kind of bigger project. And I feel like that's what I was good at in TF2 mapping. I'm not an amazing mapper for as many maps as I have and as well known as I am as a mapper. I'm good at marketing and I'm good at gathering people up. And that combination made me a common name in TF2.
I think that's pretty good place to stand, regardless of what it is you end up doing, whether it's TF2 or music or anything you choose to do with the rest of your life, or possibly even hairstyling.
You got to market. Like any career you get into, you have to market yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to market yourself, you're gonna have a hard time getting into that career. And that's actually something I learned a lot about marketing from a buddy of mine, Hey You. We worked on Stony Ridge together. I don't know if you recall the map Stony Ridge. But that was really, really early in my mapping career. I got brought onto a project, and I kind of saw his leadership style and what he could do gathering up a team of people. And it was a lot of early lessons for, like, just because you spent a lot of time on a project doesn't mean you should continue spending a lot of time on it if it sucks. Don't be afraid to scrap your work. That's one of the number one things that helped me kind of stand out as a mapper. You can't just go, well, I put all this time in, I have to stick with it. No, you need to scrap stuff when it sucks. And if the end result's going to be better, then you nailed it. And I learned that. And actually, Hey You also, coincidentally enough, works in marketing. We actually, this is something probably very few people know about the early days of Stony Ridge. We actually ran a marketing campaign for it, like a proper marketing campaign. We had Google Ads for Stony Ridge.
You're kidding.
No, we 100%. We had Facebook ads. We had a Facebook page. We had Google ads running. This is how geeked out that my buddy Hey You got into it. We had targeted Facebook ads for people who worked in Bellevue, Washington, and worked in video games.
What?
Because we were trying to get Valve to see our app.
No, hang on, no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genius, but
that's marketing, baby. Like,
wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm appalled or impressed, but I think it's probably appalled actually. But yeah,
this was close to probably 10 years ago, like 8 to 10 years ago. This happened.
I mean, it's still got to be as valid a ploy now as it was then. Excuse me, I'm just gonna go and register on Google Ads. Wow.
So that kind of, my point of that though was that it kind of taught me ways to think outside the box and market yourself and market your project, and it really helped me. Half the reason I made my tutorial series was to educate people. The other half was to work on my brand as a mapper. I became a well-respected mapper, so people wanted to check out my maps. Like, it was part of the marketing strategy, and it sounds really cynical, and it sounds like I don't know, it sounds bad in ways, but that's life.
I was going to say, I think the way you're describing it is probably like an oversimplification of what you did for the mapping scene.
Yeah.
I mean, even naming the YouTube videos that you created, like how to map, I could definitely see that as being. If I were being me a few years ago, I would have seen that as being a cynical way for. Cynically, would have seen it as a way for like you getting your name out there, you getting your brand out there. But I can't imagine that that's the sort of thing that was on the top of your head when you did that.
It was part of it. It was part of it in that I knew what I was doing. I knew that what was going to happen if it took off, and I knew that there wasn't a good resource out there to start off mapping. When I first got into mapping, it was like, okay, here's a tutorial that is for a different game entirely.
Yep.
Use this one, but only half of it. Also, half of this doesn't work. Here's another tutorial that's outdated because this changed, but you use 25% of the tutorial to get started.
We're not going to tell you it's 25% either. It's
yeah, exactly. And there were so many convoluted things to mapping for TF2 that you learn over time. That a new person is like, okay, how am I supposed to know that that's how that works? And I was like, man, if I had an upper hand, if I had a tutorial series or something that was very straightforward and explained all those little tiny details that nobody seems to think is important when you're first learning, that are incredibly important, I would have been a lot further along than I am. So also with a touch of, oh my god, I hate watching video tutorials. They're all terrible. How do you make them better? I combined those kind of two initiatives into making that tutorial series. So it was like short, concise, get to the point. Don't spend 5 minutes introducing your video. So last, hey, thanks guys for watching my video. I'm UEAK. And if you watch the last video, you know that I was working on this one thing, and I'm sorry I haven't made a video in a couple weeks, but life got crazy, and so I'm going to assume you don't know anything that I've told you so far. So we're going to rehash half of that in this intro, and 5 minutes into the video, you're finally getting that 30 seconds of content that you wanted. Yeah. And I hate that. I loathe wasting my time on videos like that. So I was like, okay, TF2 mapping. Hi, this is the video. You're going to learn this thing. Go. Open hammer. Here's how you open hammer. Like, I broke it down to the fundamentals of nothing. Start from episode 1. Go forward. Yep. Learn. And each thing will be sequentially added to the thing before it. And if you don't know the thing, you skipped a video.
So when are you gonna get to the stage in your music career that we can expect to see how to do music band? How to metal?
I could never. Oh, I just killed myself. I could never do that because music, like mapping, is a niche. Mapping has, especially for TF2, it's like a very small community in the grand scheme of things. It's a small thing. Like when I was making my tutorial series, I was terrified that I would like make some basic mistake, that I would explain how to do something from a voice of authority, and somebody who was very experienced would go, "What the hell are you talking about, Crash? You have no idea. You are a fraud." Like I was like terrified. And now with music is a massive industry of professionals dating back thousands of years. That's not a level that I could touch ever in my life. And I don't intend to try to be a voice of authority on it ever. Now maybe, hey, here's how to record on a lack of budget. Here's a really janky way to go about doing that. Maybe I'd make something like that. But
I was going to say, sort of drumming at home, my first drum kit kind of thing. How do I practice before I got a drum kit kind of thing?
I mean, I've thought about doing like drumming tutorials locally, like just sitting down with somebody and charging $20 an hour or something to sit there and teach them the basics of drumming. Like I could do something like that, but on a bigger scale, that just sounds like a nightmare.
Money's not so tight yet. That you,
I mean, I'm doing well enough financially with my normal, boring professional career that I can put a little time into passion projects again. I'm not feeling desperate for funds, so it helps. Like I'm not rich by any means, and I've made some stupid purchases towards music in the past, but got to do.
At least at the end of it, you can just sell your drum set for $500 and be free.
Yeah, I hope so. My cymbals alone, shit.
Is it that expensive?
Oh God, yeah, dude. I've got a $400 ride cymbal. One of my
What?
crashes is $300. Another crash is like 250. What else do I got? My hi-hats were probably close to another 300. And that's just the shiny bits, the shiny circles you hit with sticks.
Yeah.
And then like the drum kit itself was probably close to God, I don't know. It's been a while since I bought the kit. Probably like $1,400. Just like the shells. And then the pedals, the make big boom pedals. Those are like $500. It's
Wow.
stupid. I don't recommend it. I highly recommend not picking up music.
I've got to admit, I had a conversation earlier the week with our editor about the price of microphones, or the sort of microphones you can get, and yet they are ridiculously expensive for what they are. They are ridiculously overpriced.
Oh yeah, man. And it helped when we recorded our album. I had our bass player who had a recording studio. He had just like this tons and tons of gear laying around from his old projects. So he was like, oh yeah, I had this $300 microphone that we'll use for vocals, I guess. Like, yeah, we'll just bust that one out. So we had these really, really nice pieces of equipment, luckily. That helped a lot. So not have to invest in something like that. That helps a lot. That makes doing a home studio a little bit more plausible.
No, I'm just throwing my life away at the moment, both in game and in real life. That's right. I'm thinking that we've had more time with you by 2 minutes than I was expecting to have. How much more time can I possibly eke out of Crash?
Maybe like 20 minutes tops.
20 minutes.
I got a head start on dinner. That was the important thing.
Right.
Because I got to have dinner ready within the hour, but it's just a matter of throwing it in now. So I can like 15, 20 tops.
All right. Let's ask a simple one then. What was your biggest regret between taking up the mantle of mapper and taking up the mantle of musician? What didn't you do?
Musician.
Musician. A magic musician.
I can't say I have many regrets, honestly. There's probably some people I rather would have not worked with in hindsight, but that's up for another time. It's pretty obvious drama when you really break down the stuff that I've done in the past. But
right.
I will say the invasion update, the whole cluster that was around that. Financially, it was really nice because that was when I got probed in. But just I don't have non-vulgar words for that situation.
Was it that bad?
It was a lot of people taking advantage of other people.
Right.
And that was the last community update that we had. That was the one that kind of ruined it for the future. This is the meaty drama stuff.
Full disclosure, that was the only one that I've had any involvement in. So the fact that it is the worst one always strikes a bone of fear into me that maybe I screwed it for everyone.
You're kind of like tangentially in though, right?
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, tangentially in the screwing or tangentially in the update. I mean,
yeah. So like, I mean, it was more the.
It's okay.
Some of the leadership. I will put it as that. Some of the leadership who was trying to make it more about themselves than as a whole. And honestly, coming out of Invasion, I started working with the team that became Frontline, the Frontline team, and most of that team went on and did Saxes for Agent Gun Vulcanite. It was a lot of the same people. And a lot of that was coming out of the Invasion update and going, okay, that was not how this should be run. That's not how it should be done. This should be more about fun and making cool stuff with each other than maximizing profit percentages and stuff like that, so we kind of took that going into it and worked on Frontline. And very, very early on, we knew they were no longer doing community updates. And we chose to continue to do the project despite this, because it wasn't about trying to get an update made. It was trying to make a content pack that would benefit the community. It was It was about one of the more altruistic, I feel like, projects that were out there. Maybe I'm biased because I was involved in it, but I really feel like at its core, it was a very wholesome project, and we just made this big map pack models and all these assets, and kind of created like a new theme almost. And I'm really proud of it. And then we took that team and went on and put that same kind of excitement and passion into Aging on Vulcanite. And we hit a point where we were like, okay, there's a really good chance that with this big of a team, Valve is not going to send us all off if we win best overall.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell Valve is going to send like 14 people to Seattle from all over the entire world. We were like, screw it. It's not about that. We're out to make something cool.
Yeah.
Like, in spite of that, we did it anyway, you know? And then it turned out Valve was like, yeah, dude, come on. And they just brought all our dumbasses over anyway.
I mean, it sounds incredulous to anyone else sort of watching and unaware of like the joy that is the Saxies, that Valve would go to those lengths. But I think the Saxies are always one that, since I discovered, or since I was made aware of the fact that the Dota equivalent of Saxies get a huge cash prize, I always figure that like Valve was screwing over TF2, or screwing over the creators behind TF2, Saxies.
Ultimately, I feel like they're just such separate things. In like, we think of Valve as being this giant entity that is just all-encompassing. This is Valve, who knows all, sees all. When it's really like the TF2 team, the CS:GO team, the Dota team, and the Dota team, you know, managed to scrape up the justification for a lot bigger, you know, financial incentives for that kind of thing. And the TF2 team went in a different direction for a lot of it. But honestly, the Saxy trip was a once in a lifetime coolest experience of my life. So, shit.
Yeah, it's very difficult to sort of feel bad about the whole experience, knowing that you guys did get a chance to sit down with Valve and they made an effort.
Yeah.
And playing them with them as well, I guess was kind of a big thing. So.
Yeah. I sat down and played TF2 with them. I picked Dave Riller's brain. I got feedback from Dave Riller on Overgrown directly from his face. Like,
you killed me. You killed me. Sorry, carry on. Dave told you what?
So, like, I got some direct feedback that was really helpful to kind of work on it from Valve, which is not a thing they do. They purposely avoid giving mappers feedback because they don't want it to be everyone hoping to get, you know, the scraps of Valve feedback. They want it to be a community-focused thing. But I was like, it was after the jungle update, and I was like, hey, you know, obviously Overgrown was not up to par. What was wrong with it in your opinion? I got a bunch of good feedback, and I did an update that changed some of the things that they recommended and changed some other things that I felt like needed to get fixed. And overall, it made the map better, and it was really exciting to get to do that.
And I guess what the last thing they want to have is everybody following the same set of instructions.
Yeah.
You end up with the same map over and over.
I've been hesitant to even talk about that, like to reveal that Valve gave me feedback. But at the same time, I'm getting out of the scene, so if I leave ashes in my wake, so be it. No, no, it's not that bad. It's. I don't think it's going to be as big of a problem now as it would have been in the past. I feel like TF2 is in a bit of a different place than it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of people being in different places than they used to be, I feel like we've taken enough of your time.
Okay. Yeah.
Where is it that we should go to in order to get more of the crash?
Probably the most active I am social media wise would be Twitter. So just UEAK Crash on Twitter. I'm always plugging whatever I'm working on, showing off pictures of whatever stupid project. I've done a bunch of little like projects, like miniature painting. I've been sewing a patch jacket. I don't know if you know, like the metal heavy metal vest with all the patches all over it. I've been working on my own of that, and I learned how to sew for it. So I've been like posting updates of that every so often. Because I can't not create. So there's always something happening. So Twitter is the best place for that. If you're interested in my music, if you're into heavy music, Bog Wizard, BOG Wizard, .bandcamp.com is where you can find the EP. We've got a YouTube channel, Bog Wizard. We're Twitter, Facebook, all that. All the usual places one would promote oneself. And July 3rd, we're going to have the album out, and we're really, really excited. We're working on music videos. Actually, this weekend, I'm going to be starting to record our first music video. So we got all that in the basement right now, all that equipment. So if you want to follow those things, I would appreciate it. If not, I don't care. That's fine too. Shit. Do you? Metal's not for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
I will say, because I can't stop talking.
You can.
I will say,
try harder. No, carry on.
My particular variety of metal, we found to be very accessible to people who aren't necessarily in metal. Like you've said, you're not real big into metal, but you were like, that's not as bad as you would expect.
Yeah,
it's not terrible. It's better than you expected. We actually played this festival. It's more of a small rock folk kind of festival locally here, and it tends to get like literally a bunch of old ladies playing ukuleles on the stage, and a couple like sort of rock bands doing covers. And I talked the guy who ran it into letting my just doom metal heavy band come play, and it was like half the audience was just horrified because it was literally like a father-son acoustic guitar duo and then Bog Wizard.
Wow, and, that's gonna be massive.
There's this really great picture from behind my vocalist when he's up there singing and playing guitar, and you can just see this old guy with his hand like on his cheek, like just very concerned about what he's seeing in front of his face. And then there's like this one guy who's just like, yeah, dude, like a little stoned looking, a little real excited to be there. But we had people come up to us later, and it was like actually this really well-respected retired music teacher, who was like, I've never heard metal that I actually enjoyed, and I really heard like what you guys were doing with it, and I really appreciated it. It was really cool.
That's really nice to see.
So we've gotten a lot of good feedback from people who don't necessarily listen to metal. So what I'm saying is, give it a chance, give it a listen. If you don't like it, that's fine too. But you might find something you like that you wouldn't expect to in it. I'm very proud of it. Is what I'm saying.
Well, when you're cutting your first, I don't know what they're called, like diamond record. I don't know what the equivalent is. Do remember your boots, and give a shout out to all those poor fools still playing TF2.
So funny thing about my particular genre of metal, like one of the most famous people in it is still like a mailman on the side. Like it's not a thing that anybody's making a living off of, but it helps. That helps. It goes back to the passion project. Like I don't want to I'm not trying to get rich and famous making music. I'm trying to put out something cool that I'm excited about. And if people listen to it, that'd be cool too.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again. And if you've enjoyed this experience of whiling away an hour or so with Crash, do look to the rest of our YouTube content, where you'll find interviews with such geniuses as
please like and subscribe.
Yeah, do them things. All right, screw it. All right, fair enough.
Smash that like button. We're trying to get 10 likes on the video. Can we do it, guys?
Can we? And yeah, feel free to leave content, a message in chat or whatever to tell us who it is that we should interview next time. As for the time being, thank you very much, Crash, once again.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
GG to the audience and everybody who's been watching and listening and being part of this experience. We will see you shortly in the world of Team Fortress 2. Take care, everyone. Outro music, do. We haven't got any do. Anything,
You're welcome.